Let's bring in our first guest. He knows all about three-point shooting.
Yes, he does.
Remains number 2 all-time at BYU at 202 of them. Also number 2 with 535 attempts. That one does not surprise us at all. It's our pleasure to welcome Jonathan Tavernari to the Wise Guys. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me, guys. I always watch it, and it's fun to be a part of it this week. So.
Well, you're a headliner tonight, so let's get after it. What do you think
We're
of these?
excited to get your thoughts, and we know you will give us your thoughts.
These 12-2 Cougars. And by the way, you were great on BYU TV.
Yeah, we love having you on there.
Fun.
We're glad to have you.
We love having you on that with us.
Yeah, and I think that, I don't know if you guys have announced he had the Cougar Board question. And,
well, that
so
one's
on.
coming up in just a bit.
Yeah. I think that's the question in everybody's mind. Why the heck did Trevin sit for so long? And the one thing, after watching the game, knowing Mark, seeing this team, I would say that he wanted to get Jackson going. That's my personal feeling. Because doing that stretch, right? And I mean, you guys are the pros, and you guys were there calling the game. Jackson was the main one getting shots up during the break. Dallin did too. But I think that they were trying to get Jackson going because we haven't really seen him much. I mean, the Wyoming game, it wasn't very good.
Since his sprained ankle, he's been a little quiet.
It's too bad because he was, I mean, think about it, Jonathan. We had, what game did we do right before Wyoming?
Bellarmine.
Yeah, Bellarmine's coach said, that could be the best shooter in the country right there. He's talking about Jackson Robinson. He was playing with so much confidence, and at 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan, it's hard to contest his shot.
Oh, yeah.
And so he goes down with that ankle injury, then he sits, and he hasn't been quite right ever since then. So what do you do to get a guy like that right again?
And if you guys remember, just to add to that, Blaine, they were taught, I mean, Jonathan Givney from Draft Express, it was giving him a lot of love and saying, hey, you know, you might be a late bloomer on next year's draft or the year after that. And so what do? I think that's what Mark was trying to do, which is, you know, we need him, maybe get him going. But the ankle is tricky. Because especially with basketball and your first lateral movement, everything starts on your feet and your footwork. And so to me, you know, I'm very close to Trevin. Yeah. You know, we've worked together before, working on his shooting and different tips and so on. It was surprising to have him be on the bench for that long. Again, my personal opinion, obviously, you know, hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
Looking back, you should have never taken him out. I personally wouldn't have. As a shooter, whenever I got going, I never wanted to come off the floor. I mean, you drag me off the floor until I can't shoot anymore. But I think what Mark was doing is trying to get Jackson Robinson going because we need him, right? And to me, that's what he was trying to do, and it wasn't very successful.
They need both to be good in this league. They need both of those guys to go off, right?
Right, absolutely. And to me, the saddest thing was, you know, and with the people around me, I said, we're going to waste a career night. I mean, he could have had as many threes as Chase Fisher.
He was just one short.
Yeah, I was looking at Jackson. So 27 minutes, Jonathan.
Jackson wasn't right. He wasn't right.
You could.
He was
see
2 of 7 from the field.
Yeah.
And 1 of 5 from 3. 2 rebounds. Just didn't look right.
No, and again, right.
He's better than that.
And I think that his flow, his rhythm. Right, I mean, you're talking about all of the accolades and things that we're saying to him. He was on fire. I mean, he was, you know, on a trajectory that was unbelievable. And so what I think it happened is Mark wanted to go with Jackson to see if he could kind of like, you know, kind of when you're pushing a car that the battery's kind of, you know, funky, see if you could kind of like, you know, push him into ignition.
To get him jump started.
Yeah, but it just didn't work out. And when you look at the numbers, BYU got out rebounded, which hasn't happened a lot this year, and 18 turnovers.
Yeah.
And I coach my little boys team, and what I say is I would rather you jack up a shot backwards rather than you turn the ball over. Because if you're turning the ball over, you're not getting a chance to shoot it, to score the baskets. And then, you know, you mentioned Dawson. I think that Dawson's minutes were a byproduct of Trey not playing well. Trey was there for 4 minutes.
I don't think Dawson was going to play at all.
I don't think so either.
I think he's good. What's happened with Dawson is, you know, they have a certain amount of time to decide whether they're going to medically redshirt him. And every time he plays extended minutes, the foot hurts the next day. And it's just like he's too much of a talent to nurse the injury all year long. It's like, okay, he's not far enough removed from having that thing fixed. If he can't go full go, let's sit him this year, and then you bring him back. He's a really gifted with the ball in his hand, can create for himself, is strong, reliable free throw shooter, and will go score through contact. And then you bring back Colin Chandler with him, and now you got something. So I'm with you, Dave. I think they've maybe not officially made the decision yet, but I think they're going.
And to add to that, I think that look at Trevin. I mean, Trev had a great season, before, and then he redshirted last year. All of us were like, is he going to redshirt? Is this real? Is this legit? He ended up doing it. Look at the year he's having this year. And then to be able to bring in Colin in a way that you don't have to throw him to the wolves at the first 5-10 games of the season.
Right.
I think that's the right decision to make. But even 5 for 10 for the free throw line, BYU shot 50% from the free throw line.
Yeah. People were saying to me today, oh, this is ridiculous, Cincinnati. And I said, guys, that's not on the ref. Cincinnati played on attack. They turned downhill. They went to the front of the rim. They got fouled. BYU just threw the ball around the perimeter and jacked up 3-pointers. They shot 45 of them. Yeah. You're not going to get fouled shooting 45 free throws. So am I surprised that BYU shot 10? Not a bit. That's not on the officials.
Cincinnati was the aggressors the entire time. And the one thing, we've always, everybody has said, you guys have said it during pregame and so on, if BYU can finish in the top half of the Big 12, they are locked for the NCAA.
9-9 is my goal for them.
But
for the season.
Here's the trick to that, and I thought that was feasible too. But now you have to make up a game.
Yeah, because that's a game you should have won.
You were counting on that 9-9. You were counting with a win.
Maybe you get it tomorrow night against Baylor.
Because here's what I think is going to happen. I think they'll go get a makeup one because they're gonna go out and shoot 45 from 3 and 52 from the field in a game on the road against a team that they are not supposed to have any chance to beat, and they'll just beat them because and then they may lose another one that they're not supposed to lose because they're going to shoot 28 and they're going to. Unfortunately, when this is the style you play with, you're going to have a bad shooting night once in a while. I do appreciate
you live by the 3 and you die by the 3.
I do appreciate that they play such good defense and typically are so good on the offensive glass because they had the ball on last possession against Utah, even though they shot it miserably, which says something.
And 71 points scored against, suffered. That's not bad.
Yes,
35 points. That's what Wyoming scored. Right. That's a not bad defense. Unfortunately, at the end of the day,
it wasn't working on the other.
No, it wasn't. And Trevin, it's always interesting to me because I know in a coach's mind he's got some rotations. Like, man, and Mark has a lot of guys.
Right.
He's got like 10 guys. Like, I got to get these guys in. I want to have everybody engaged. We're going to play this guy, then we're going to sit him. We're going to do this, trying to get Jackson going. But at some point, does an assistant coach walk over and go, Coach, do not take him out until he misses a shot? Like, he's just made 9. Let's just milk it. I know we're supposed to go to this. Let's just milk it. And let's play him until he misses. And maybe he makes 3 more.
Yeah. And maybe I should have yelled louder.
Yes.
Well, there were a lot of groans. So, hey, put Nell in. Let me tell you, we're going to talk to Trent Pratt about last year Luke Anderson hit 3 home runs and 3 at-bats. And he sent him up a 4th time. And then he almost hit that one out. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the hot bats stay in. The hot hands stay in. But on this case, and I thought Nell might have been gassed when he went to the bench. He'd been playing a lot.
Did you think so?
I just wasn't sure. But then he stayed there, and that was
well. And here's the thing. Like, it's interesting because Mark's been asked, and they've just said, no, there were some things we were trying to do, which I'm sure they were. But even no matter what you say, behind the scenes, and we've been behind the scenes, coaches will go, "Oh crap, we should have left. We should have played him 5 more minutes."
And I don't think that it would be a bad thing for Mark to say, "Look, we were trying to get Jackson going," and I think everybody in the world would say,
"Okay, that makes sense,"
because Jackson is the man. But then, how do you say that and then not maybe not throw some dirt, but maybe throw some shade towards Trevin. But Trevin was like, look, hold up. I'm like about to score 10 threes in a game.
Just give me the ball.
You know what I mean? And so I think the way that Mark politically correctly answered that and said that to you, I was actually pushing Mitch Harper. I was texting Mitch, and I'm like, freaking Harp, let me double down on that question. I need to know. But I think, how do you, it's a fine line between, and you know this, having the confidence, the irrational confidence, and then, shaking your boots a little bit. And so it's not,
and they do need to get Jackson going.
Oh, yeah.
Because in the long run, he needs to be he needs to be back to where he was before the ankle injury.
Dallin should be the one shooting 12 threes in a game.
And they need Foose.
And they need Foose.
And they need Foose to be a presence that demands a double team or he scores.
And I think Noah played well, but not as well as he has been playing, which is another factor.
I was watching that today because I was in Rome Saturday, so I had to watch it today.
Did you go to the temple?
Yes, we did.
Isn't it amazing?
Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. The statue of Christ and the 12 apostles in that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
it takes your breath away.
So every single time, or whenever we had time off, my son is crazy about animals. And so we would go to the
Rome. And you were in Rome playing.
Yeah. And so we would go to Rome, and then we would, because we had friends and know people, we would walk the grounds as they were building. And it was unbelievable.
Two things took my breath away. We came around that corner to the visitor center and saw that. Yeah. And then we walked in. That took my breath away. The other thing is we went into the Academia Museum.
Okay.
And we turned the corner. And Michelangelo's David is at the end of the corridor.
And you don't realize how big it is until you get there.
I just went, oh my goodness. Like that, it was breathtaking.
I know this is not an art thing, but do you know the story about David? Do you know how David came about?
Yeah. Well, here's what I love. My favorite. I want to hear your part of the story.
Yeah.
My favorite is that I found out that Michelangelo was a guy. So Bernini, who's a friend, now we're doing an art show.
Do you know the story?
But Bernini is an artist who's one of the greatest sculptors of all time. Yeah. And the Borghese Museum has all of his great works. And he did one of David and Goliath, and some beautiful, beautiful works. But Bernini was just like, I will use the finest quality materials of ever, right? Like, I need the most perfect marble to carve out. And Michelangelo was like, no, give me the crap that everybody else threw away. So the David was an old piece of marble that somebody else had already started carving on. And they go like, we don't like this piece of marble. And he's like, I am so gifted.
Yeah.
I want the crap marble because I will make this thing into a thing of beauty. And he carved the David out of a piece of scrap marble.
Yeah.
And it is it may be the greatest sculptor of all time.
So he was already a somebody in Rome and the Vatican. But back home in Tuscany, in Florence, he was, he wasn't as grand.
Yeah.
And people said that piece of marble was cursed. And he said, and people were like doubting him a little bit because everybody knew about him in the Vatican, but they were like, why? Why are you so good?
Yeah.
So he paid for the piece of marble that he bought with his own money. And he went and he sculpted, and doing his thought process, I know because I lived in Tuscany for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And he said,
we were in Florence also this week.
That's amazing. And so the whole thought process was, what is the greatest underdog story in the whole world? And
it's Michelangelo.
David and Goliath, right? And the way that they explained, and the way, David is holding the rock in a certain way, and the way he's looking, it is unbelievable.
It's crazy. So, and I know you played over there. So there's your art lesson for the day, everybody. And it was the Temple Visitor Center is breathtaking. The temple is breathtaking. And if you've never been to Florence to see the Michelangelo's David,
that's right.
When you turn the corner and walk down, it literally will take your breath away. It's so spectacular. It was really cool.
That's awesome.
So, and I thought about you being on the show, and I know that you had played over there.
Yeah,
so I knew that you'd appreciate that. Yeah. So now I got a basketball question for you.
Yes.
We've called games that you've been in where I know you felt like Trevor Nell felt the other night.
Yeah.
We've not had that. I maybe had it in high school, but on a big level, what's it like when just everything you're shooting's going down?
I've had that at the Marriott Center back when it was 22,700, right? And you guys remember
They're
that.
sitting on benches up there instead of chair seats.
And so I will tell you this, it is an out-of-body experience. When you make the first one, the fans go wild. You make the second one after they miss the shot. And then when you can get another stop and you make a third three-pointer in a row and the Marriott Center's roof is about to explode, and I know you guys, and I'm getting chills just talking about it, and you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And as soon as you made that third one, and the only thing you hear is the crowd going crazy, but you kind of hear the whistle of them calling a timeout. And I can think back of me just yelling and doing the things I used to do. It is an out-of-body experience. And
so part of that, I love that. I didn't even think about that. Part of it is that whistle you hear in the background indicates to you, I just hit them so hard and so quick that they had to call a time.
And I remember the first time that happened to me. And I remember all of my games. Obviously I love the game and I love BYU. But I was a freshman playing against TCU at home. and I went 6 for 6. And then I missed my 7. I ended up being 6 for 7 for the game, and it was kind of like my coming out party as a freshman.
Yeah, I think I called that game.
And I remember knocking down the third 3-pointer. The TCU coach called a timeout, and I remember just the whole gym is going wild. I can see my mom and dad in the stands saying, my mom's crying. My dad is just hyping it up. Keeney Young is coming at me and just shaking me up. Those are out-of-body experience. And I'll tell you what, because I'm very close to Trev, when he made his 7th, 8th, and 9th,
oh my goodness,
I was having an out-of-body experience because I was like, that's my boy. I was just having that proud moment. And so that's what it feels like.
Former Cougar Jonathan Tavernari is on the Wise Guys, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. JT played for BYU between 2006 and 2010, holds the BYU record for making at least 1 3 in 22 consecutive games. Great to have him with us. We say hello to Neil in Tucson, Michael from Beaumont, Texas, as Cougar fans around the world joining Wise Guys tonight. So Baylor's tomorrow night, and there's an interesting 3-point setup in that game.
Right.
Baylor's number 1 in the NCAA in 3-point percentage at 43. BYU's number 44 at 37. But BYU's number 1 in 3-pointers made per game at 12.9. Baylor's back at 37 at 9.4. BYU's number 5 in 3-point defense. Baylor's number 77.
There's the crack in the armor.
So what's the key in this shootout tomorrow in Waco?
I think it's going to be a very hype game for them because if I understand, it's the second time ever they play on that arena.
Yeah.
And so I think that's obviously with, school pretty much back in session. It's going to be packed. It's going to it reminds me a lot of some of the games BYU had in Moraga against St. Mary's.
Yeah.
It's a smaller arena. Doesn't feel like, a Marriott Center type of vibe. And so and Baylor now it's a national powerhouse and national championships and so on. I don't think so much of the storyline with Caleb and so on. I think it has been moved on and kind of past that a little bit. But I think the key is going to be, Baylor is now on the up and up, right? Mm-hmm. They had a few games. They kind of slipped a few ones back, but they're kind of building their momentum,
right,
which they always have made a name for themselves in the Big 12 of building that momentum and winning 5, 6, 7 games in a row. And BYU they're not going to face a tougher road environment than Baylor at Baylor against a top 8. I think they're 14 in the country this week. Mm-hmm. It's going to be massive. Are they going to be able to knock down enough shots? And then if Baylor is not making them, but they're going to be physical. That's the one thing we know about Caleb, right? I mean, I know I was very critical about his shooting and everything, but Caleb was a man playing with children, right?
Physical.
And they have like 7 or 8 Calebs that are like that. And so is BYU going to be able to hold the momentum? I think it's a huge game, something that Tyler Hall says a lot on the pregame. Are they going to be able to play the same way with the same intensity, have somebody knock down shots after they lose maybe 1, 2, 3 games in a row? Yeah. I think Jimmer said that to you guys as well.
Yeah, Jimmer talked about that with us.
And so I think that's the key tomorrow. How is BYU going to react after having lost a winnable game? Because there's a difference when you get whooped by,
when you go to Kansas and you lose at Kansas, it's like, oh, well.
It's Kansas at their field house. You get it. But when you lose at home, a losable game, and probably, you probably felt the same thing. Oh, gosh, I can't believe I lost a winnable game. And so,
see, when I was at BYU, we never lost one of those.
I never lost.
No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm kidding.
There were a couple that got away.
We lost a couple that we shouldn't. Like, we lost the UNLV once, which was like, what? And we did lose the UTEP once.
Yeah, but that was a low of lows.
But that's the thing.
But you know what?
Even my time during the Mountain West, like I went back, I had one bad loss in my entire career at BYU, which is against a Boise State team that Kobe Carl played in it that we had no business losing to them. But other than that, like all of the other games, I think maybe at Beaumont when we played at Beaumont for Keeney Young.
Yeah, I remember that.
But other than that,
you lost to teams that were really good. Like
I never lost to Wyoming.
You got to take care of the games you're supposed to win.
Colorado State, never lost to TCU. Like, and that's the thing about
we lost to UTEP and Native. Like, it was the biggest upset in college football in like 3 decades, and I was part of that crap.
Yeah. And to your point, those are you have to take care of those games.
We had just won the year before we were 11-1. We lost the opener at Baylor on the road,
right?
Which is okay. We won 11 straight, beat Missouri in the bowl. We came around, went 13-0 the next year, won the national championship. We finished number 7 the one year. We finished number 1 the next year, and we had everybody back the next year. And we start out like how many and we're ranked in the top 5 again, and we lost on the road to UTEP. who, like, I don't know, they'd won like one game in 3 years. It was despicable. It's like, what did we just do?
It was a tough time for all of us.
What did we just do? And then we lost to UCLA, who was really good that year and shouldn't have lost. And then we lost 10-6 to Ohio State in the Citrus Bowl. We still finished number 12 in the country that year. But yeah, so that's not a lot of losses, but I was part of one that we should have won.
So let me ask you this.
It doesn't feel good. It's awful. I still remember it. It's one of the most hated games ever.
with you.
Get him some water.
You never forget those. I got to cool off.
One more question for you, and then we're going to hit you up with 5 straight, and then Trent Pratt, the baseball coach, is going to slide in with us tonight here on The Wise Guys. But you picked up the game of basketball as a boy growing up in Brazil.
Yeah.
What has that game done for your life that's led you to the Wise Guys here tonight?
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that. I was talking to my mom about this, and I don't know if I could have accomplished everything that I have in my life without basketball. My parents were, lower middle class in Brazil, so they could have given me opportunities to go to an okay college maybe, but I wouldn't have any opportunity to come to America, to graduate from really good high schools, to graduate from a college. I went to the Merit School of Business, which is one of the best in the country.
Yeah.
And it was all because of basketball. And then I got to play professionally. I got to go overseas. I got to do a ton of things for the church in Italy because I spoke Italian. I'm half Italian, so I speak Italian. And then for the majority of the time there, aside from when Eric was there, Eric Mika, I was the only professional athlete in Italy that was a member of the church. So being involved with, charity situations, volunteer opportunities, get to meet a lot of the general authorities and area leaders and do a lot of some of the translation that happened in the Rome Temple and be a part of that. Without basketball, and then I obviously connected the church with basketball. I mean, my dad is 5'9", my mom is 5'8".
Wow.
I look exactly like them, so I don't look like the milkman. And so, but what I'll say is, if it wasn't for basketball, and I feel like that was my God-given talent, that God put me on this earth for me to play basketball, for me to, be an outspoken person. We follow each other on social media. Mm-hmm. You guys have seen how much I share about the gospel. And so I try to do it, and I don't know what I could have done without basketball in my life. And I think I joined that with the church. So I know that it was God sent. And Jonathan, you guys know the story in the Bible with Saul and with David. And so I feel like, the gospel and the church and basketball to me is intertwined, much like it was for Krasimir Ćosić, and with somebody that I look up to a lot.
Absolutely. Great answer. Good stuff. You ready for 5 questions, Blaine?
Oh, yeah. Let's do this. Your favorite sports movie?
Rudy.
I love that his favorite sports movie is a football movie.
What number was Rudy? Do you guys remember?
I have no idea.
Dave and I we were really lucky. We were back at Notre Dame, and we did a show from Notre Dame, and Rudy came on with us.
Yeah.
And when he came out of the tunnel, and he doesn't look like Rudy on the film.
Yeah.
And but the fans knew who he was.
He looked more like an usher.
And they started to go, Rudy. I was like, no. I got the chills.
Rudy played with 45 guys. And
so
I played with 45.
That's right.
Is that right?
And by the way,
Number
Rudy's a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is really cool. So your favorite singer or band?
Favorite singer or band? I'm probably going to go with Will Smith.
Will Smith, the Fresh Prince.
That's a first in the 18 months of the Wise Guys.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever gone with Will Smith, but I kind of like it.
Yeah.
So your favorite breakfast cereal? This is the most important question.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Okay.
Yes. I thought about that right before I came for my pregame meal today, but instead I went with Cinnamon Life.
Oh.
All right.
So
Still
cinnamon
got the
toast,
cinnamon in there.
Yeah, that's excellent. Excellent choice. Your favorite BYU moment?
Favorite BYU moment? I remember the first time we won a game at Air. There's 2, and I'll be quick. The first one is when we beat Air Force my freshman year. We at least had gotten a share of the championship. And it was the first time in a few years that BYU has gotten a share of the regular season. Right. Brian Santiago comes to the locker room, crazy, and you guys know B, takes his ring off, puts on the middle of the floor and said, all of you guys just got one of those. And it was the first time that I ever won a championship here in the U.S., and I knew that I was going to get a ring. That's my first one. The second one is right after when we beat Florida. Also, Coach Rose and I had a good moment.
Yeah.
But after we beat Louisville in Las Vegas,
that was back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
As I was walking with Coach Rose to go to the press conference, I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I'm like, oh. And I turn around and I see it, and I just hear on a very Southern accent, young man, I'm Roy Williams, the head coach of University of North Carolina. That was one of the best shooting performances I've ever seen in college basketball. Congratulations. I hope we get a chance to play you tomorrow. Oh. And I'm going, you're Roy Williams. I watched it when he got game. And in Blue Chips with Shaq, I know who you are.
You had 29 points
you had 29 in that game. Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Those are the ones for me.
That's great.
Do you have a favorite three-point shot that you've made? Is there a favorite shot?
Yeah. Right before halftime against North Carolina, they shoot a free throw. Coach Rice tells me to go down to the corner and do something that Mike Lloyd and I always did it. Mike Lloyd drives the length of the court. I come off, there's a handoff, and there's Tyler Hansborough and Danny Green on me. And I knock down a switch from probably about, 5 feet or so back from the NBA line that they had it over there, and it goes nothing but net. And then you can see me running through and passing by Holly Rowe because she was with
she was working with us back in those days.
The Mountain. And so that is, now everybody call it Jimmer range, but before it was JT range. Yeah. So that's probably my favorite three-point shot.
That's awesome. I love that.
Hey, will you come back and see us again?
We need to do an art show now, I guess.
Yes, we got to do it.
Show.
And we'll speak Italian and be like, hey, grazie. Arrivederci.
Bravo.
Yeah, so.
That's awesome.
This show has no bounds.
Yes.
I love it.
Jonathan Tavernari.
Hey, we brought a guitar in, and I sang with my daughter.
Great.
So we do music on this show. We're going to do an art section. Everyone, we're going to bring JT in and do a little art section.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for being here.
Awesome.
We're so glad to have you, JT.
Jonathan Tavernari, outstanding three-point shooter, great guy, and now a BYU TV basketball analyst and guest here on the Wise Guys for the very first time, but not for the last.